The Ford Expedition is a staple of American roads. For 30 years, the Expedition's been the big, boxy, ultra-American people mover, and it remains that way today. It's an SUV for people who want the look and feel of a huge truck, towering over roads and parking spaces like they're just a few sizes too small. But there's an appeal to being larger than life, and in the Expedition, that's exactly what you are.
This is the 2025 Ford Expedition Max Platinum, the really long SUV you get when you have too many friends or family members for a pickup truck. And I'm Alana's King. Let's go for a drive and stick around for the end of this video to get this Expedition's full report card. The Ford Expedition arrived in the late 1990s with a thing we don't see too often anymore on vehicles like this, a V8 engine. It also had a body-on-frame truck platform and a 4-speed automatic transmission. And as a NASCAR fan, I tell you what, I love 4-speed transmissions. The Expedition has been through 5 generations since, and this is the 5th, which debuted for the 2025 model year. The big party trick on this vehicle was the split tailgate with this bottom tailgate that can hold 500 pounds. This is a tailgating machine, baby. But if you're not a tailgater, if you're more of a boat at the lake person, the Expedition can tow up to 9,600 pounds. This thing weighs a feather light 6,000 pounds, so technically it can tow itself. The 2025 Ford Expedition comes in a bunch of flavors. There is the $62,000 base active trim. Then you come up to the Platinum trim, which starts at $75,000, and it has a few more comfort and convenience features. After that, we have the $81,000 Tremor off-road trim, which has stuff like one-pedal driving and rock crawl mode. And at the top of the ladder, we have the $84,000 King Ranch Expedition, which is what you get when your husband coaches high school football and you have family oil money. In addition to all of those versions, a lot of them come with the option to have a Max Expedition like this. A Max Expedition is about a foot longer than the normal one, and that adds to your cargo space. And since we're talking about football anyway, this shirt is from our partner Homefield Apparel, and it reminds me of the time that my school, the University of Texas, won a national championship, and it makes me think that maybe we'll get there again someday. Homefield has all kinds of really cool officially licensed apparel, especially for your favorite colleges and universities. And they also have these really cool platinum football boxes where you'll get a short sleeve shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a really nice sweatshirt, and you'll just feel a lot of pride in your favorite school. So if you want to check out Homefield, we would absolutely love it. And thank you so much, Homefield, for supporting the channel. This particular 2025 Ford Expedition has a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 EcoBoost engine. It's what's known as the high-output Expedition engine, and it makes 440 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. There is also a standard engine that makes 400 horsepower. All of this power goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission to all 4 wheels, because this is a 4x4, and it gets a whopping 18 miles per gallon, and the final assembly point is in Kentucky. A couple of fun facts about this engine bay: the engine sits actually very low relative to the hood line, and there's a lot of room to work in here, but because it's so tall, you'd have to be on a step ladder. Once you are, though, you've got some space. And now welcome to our new segment called Alanis' Tour de Cool Features, and the first feature that we would like to point out is the paint on this Expedition. I actually like the color, but it's called Wild Green, and this is the least wild green I've ever seen in my life. Around the back of the Expedition, we have the split tailgate that I mentioned earlier, and then we have this giant black panel. And I realized while driving the other day that there was an Expedition in front of me with this same black panel, and it is so easy to spot now because it's a giant black hole on the back of the vehicle. And I don't love the giant black panel. I would kind of just rather this be body color. Around the front of the Expedition, we have this Ford glass up front that has the Expedition silhouette in it. Because you know what? If your windshield breaks, where are you gonna go? Are you gonna go to a third-party place? Or are you gonna get the official Expedition glass? Probably this. The last few cool features I want to talk about are all right here from the driver's seat. So one, in the steering wheel, you have a bunch of different adjustments you can do, and one of those adjustments is moving the pedal box forward and backward. There are so few cars in which you can move the pedal box, so this is basically a race car. Then we move to our center console storage area. Not only can we slide this thing forward and backward to reveal storage down here, that's absolutely nuts. But also, this center console has more storage space than I have ever seen in a center console in my life. Then you close the center console, get this, and there is this little area where you can put a phone or an iPad and you can entertain the people in the back. This truly is the kind of vehicle that you would sit in and do work when you just need to do work in between places to be. And it's really, really good at that and really, really comfortable. It would just be so much cooler if it got better fuel economy while you're sitting here. The base price of this 2025 Ford Expedition Max Platinum is $77,430 American dollars, and it has one $6,500 stealth performance package on it, which has those 22-inch painted wheels, a whole lot of black accents, and some extra technology features. After options and fees, the total price of this Expedition Max Platinum is $85,970 American dollars. That is so much money, but this is a truck, and that is big American Lux truck money. We have now made it to the best and most scientific part of any car review, which is how many Atlantises can fit in this Ford Expedition Max Platinum's cargo area. Now, earlier today, my husband was filming B-roll, and this cargo area is so big that I just laid in here very, very comfortably. So we're gonna close this, and get this. I'm gonna tell you that 4 Atlantises could fit comfortably in here. But if we are doing a real measurement, I would say 6 liquid Atlantises can fit back here. It's time to drive the 2025 Ford Expedition Max Platinum. And before we talk about how this vehicle drives, I want to talk about the comfort, styling, and the different controls outside and inside the car. We're gonna start with outside of the car. I kind of like the way this vehicle looks. I mean, it looks like a truck, and I understand the audience it's for, which is basically you live in Texas and you're really involved with high school football and you want to go to a lake. And this looks like a big truck, and the people who buy this want it to look like a big truck. I like the green paint. I don't think it's that wild. I like the red brake calipers. It looks decent from the outside. And also when you're walking up to the vehicle, it auto unlocks, and you also have your running boards come out, which is just nice, especially when a vehicle is this big. You do not want to be lifting your leg way up in the air to get inside. Once we move inside the Expedition, the biggest thing you see from the driver's seat is the fact that this dashboard is so long and so big. And I actually think that adds to the sense of how big the vehicle is, but I think it does that in a bad way. So when I'm sitting back and the vehicle is already huge and it has this long hood in front of me and everything like that, having a long dashboard makes me feel even more disconnected from the vehicle I'm steering. So it makes it feel like I have less control when I'm driving, and I don't love that. I wish the dashboard were less deeply set and I felt more on top of what I'm looking at and what I'm driving, because if I'm not like that, basically, I feel pretty disconnected from what's going on. But when I'm sitting here, I really like the materials in this interior. We have these soft leathers right here. I like this textured silver bit that runs down the dashboard. A lot of automakers would just put piano black right here, and there's a teeny bit of piano black in this interior, but not too much. But I like when automakers do something different because it doesn't look as dirty. It looks better. It's not nasty. And in addition to that textured silver pattern, we have this diamond graphite texture above it. And it just looks so much better than going with the basic option, which is piano black. A couple more fun facts you notice while driving this Expedition is that we have giant sun visors. And giant sun visors never hurt a single soul, and they block more sun when the sun is in your eyes, which is great for me. Then we have a rectangular steering wheel. This is not a circle, dude. This is rectangular. And the last thing I want to note is that there's this nice little cover up of this little cargo area where you can put your wallet and your phone. And I was like, that's perfect. I'm going to cover up my phone while I'm filming. And then I didn't, so it was open. That's just me for you, I guess. Now I want to quickly run you through some of the controls you will run into inside this Expedition. We have non-physical button climate controls, and that to me is so sad. I love physical buttons for climate controls because that's what you're going to use often and that's what you're going to feel around for. But these climate controls do have a dedicated bar in the touchscreen, and I will say that some vehicles have that dedicated bar, but they still make you open up an extra menu and do different stuff to change the fans and to change the temperature and things like that. This Expedition Max Platinum does not require you to do that. You can just click the buttons up and down, and it works pretty well for not being physical buttons. In the same vein as those touchscreen controls for your climate, we have multifunction capacitive wheel buttons, and they're all right. You can change kind of what they do in the mapping of them and things like that. And I think you would get used to it if you own the vehicle, but I just really wish there were physical controls here, and maybe that's a me thing. A lot of automakers are doing capacitive and touchscreen buttons, so maybe it's just me, but man, I wish I had some physical buttons on this steering wheel. And the last bit I will note about controls from the driver's seat is that we do not have a rearview mirror camera. We just have a regular rearview mirror instead of one that switches back and forth between mirror and camera. And the cameras we do have on this vehicle, so when I press the 360 surround camera, it's fantastic that I can see a 360 view of the vehicle when I'm parking. That really helps with how big this thing is. But the cameras themselves are not super high quality, so you'll look at them and you'll go, oh, that's kind of a low quality camera view, and it's really, really sharpened to trick people into thinking it's a higher quality camera view than it is. It definitely could be a better camera, especially for a brand new model. Like I mentioned earlier, this center console, the fact that it's so deep and there are so many layers to it, and you can move it forward and backward and everything like that and just get it in the perfect position, this thing is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And when you make a phone call, if you have your fans on auto, the Expedition will turn your fans down for you so you can talk. It's very important in a vehicle like an Expedition to talk about the second and third rows because people will be back there and likely kids will be back there. And like many vehicles that focus on comfort for the second row, this one gives people in the second row their own climate controls and a bunch of charging ports and lots of space and these thick armrests, the thickest second row armrests I have ever seen on a 3-row vehicle like this. So you're very comfortable back there. I will also say that your controls for climate are down low. They're on the back of this center console, and one of my people who is in the industry with me, a colleague, Jana, she does a lot of reviews in terms of how would parents look at this vehicle. And something that she talked about when I was on a drive recently that I'd never thought about was if you have kids in the second row and you have controls on the roof, some kids can't reach those. So to have them down low is really, really helpful. So you get that in this Expedition. You do not, however, get window shades in the second row of this specific vehicle, which I think people like second row window shades because it just helps when it's super bright outside like it is right now, but you don't get that here. The last thing I'll say about the interior before we talk about driving is that I got in the third row seats, And I'm 5'8.5", and I had about 2 inches of legroom. It was pretty nice back there. A lot of 3-row vehicles, they will have a 3rd row for the sake of saying they have a 3rd row and advertising they have a 3rd row, but it's not really usable by adults, and it's still pretty squeezed for children. And yeah, you don't have the most legroom in the world if you're an adult and you're back there, but you can get back there and you can survive, and that's a big deal. Now let's talk about driving this Expedition Max Platinum. The first thing I will say, and the most important thing that you should always know when you are looking at vehicles that are body on frame versus unibody, is that this is a body on frame vehicle. That means the body is on top of the frame instead of together like you would see on a unibody vehicle. When you have a body on frame truck-like structure, it is going to feel very bouncy because that body is on top of the frame and the suspension's gonna be a little softer like an off-road vehicle. So when you're going around town, it's like going around town in a big truck. It's bouncy, and it's not my favorite ride in the world. I prefer a unibody ride, but I also understand that this is what you get when you want that towing capacity. Then we have the truck-like fuel economy. The numbers on this Expedition Max Platinum are 22 on the highway, 15 in the city, and 18 combined. But we found on a pretty good road trip the other day that we were getting 17 on the highway, and that's kind of rough for fuel economy, but I get it. This is a big vehicle. The saving grace, though, is the fact that this Expedition Max Platinum has a massive fuel tank. It's 28 gallons. That is horrifying when you get to the gas station and you're like, there's no way I have to pay this much money to fill this thing up. But it's great if you have to go on a road trip because you don't have to stop ever. Imagine if this thing got better fuel economy. There would be no need to stop at a gas station ever in your life. There is very little road noise and very little wind noise in this Expedition Max Platinum. It is a luxurious, quiet ride. Truly, right there, I just had my fans on a decent setting and they were so much louder than any road or wind noise I could have. So if you're taking this on the highway or rough roads and you're taking it for long drives, the audio in this car is going to be very peaceful. You also have very helpful technology for driving on the highway, and that is Blue Cruise. Blue Cruise is Ford's version of hands-free highway driving on certain mapped roads. It's just like General Motors Super Cruise, but it has slight differences because they're different automakers, right? The issue in this Expedition Max Platinum is there's something with the sensor that doesn't allow it to see your eyes very well. And if you look this up online, you'll see Reddit threads of people talking about they needed to move their seat so they were really tall. They couldn't squint in the sun. It is a very sensitive sensor. And so you'll get a lot of warnings while using Blue Cruise saying, hey, you need to pay attention to the road, pay attention to the road. And the whole time you are. So that sensor, I think if it gets fixed, will make this so much better. But it's kind of difficult to use Blue Cruise unless you have the perfect seating setting and the sensor sees your eyes super well, because it's just gonna get mad at you the whole time. I absolutely love driver assistance systems. Hands-on, hands-off, Blue Cruise, Super Cruise, everything like that. But I think when we are directly comparing two technologies that are big rivals, Blue Cruise with General Motors' Super Cruise, Blue Cruise has 3 places, at least in this exact Expedition, where it could improve. The sensor recognition could be a lot better. I have not had the sensor recognition issues with Super Cruise, and I've used it on a couple of vehicles. Lane changes, would love to see lane changes and not just warnings to tell me to do the lane change or suggestions to tell me to do the lane change. And the last thing, and I think the really, really big one, is the fact that when you buy new vehicles equipped with this technology, whether it's Blue Cruise or Super Cruise, the automakers are going to give you a trial so you can try it out and see what it's like. The Blue Cruise trial on a bunch of vehicles is 90 days. And then when I get a Super Cruise vehicle from GM, I get the little paper and it says Super Cruise for 3 years. And 90 days versus 3 years, especially in a world where people are leasing and trading in cars a lot, 3 years is really, really inviting. And on the topic of cameras, which we discussed earlier, the camera quality isn't the best in here. But one thing I really do like is the fact that we have turn signal cameras. You see this a lot in Hyundai and Kia products. And it's just so nice, especially when your vehicle is so big, to be able to turn on the turn signal and have a camera pop up and show you what's next to you. Because yeah, I'm gonna look over my shoulder, but this thing is big and maybe something's hiding back there, you know? Overall, this Expedition Max Platinum has an audience and it has a use case. And I think it is an important vehicle for people who want to do certain activities with this vehicle, like towing big things. Ultimately, though, if you are looking at this vehicle, you have to understand what the audience is and if you are part of that audience. This is a truck. It handles like a truck in the good ways and the bad ways when it comes to towing and general ride comfort, and it's also the price of a truck. So if you need a truck with extra seats, this is a good option. If you don't need a truck, there are definitely other things on the market that could be more comfortable for you, in my opinion. Now that we've driven the 2025 Ford Expedition Max Platinum, it's time to give it a grade. Welcome to Alanis's report card. The exterior gets a B. It looks decent and it looks right for the person who would want a giant enclosed truck, but it's also not the most beautiful thing in the world. The interior also gets a B. I really like some of the comfort and usability features you get, like that giant center console, but I'm missing that lower leg adjustment and I wish it was there. The performance, again, a B. It is decently powerful with that 440 horsepower engine, but the fuel economy is not super great. The value is a C+. If you need something that can tow almost 10,000 pounds and take a lot of people somewhere, this is the right vehicle. If you're anybody else, this is a lot of money. Would I take the Expedition on a road trip? Unfortunately, no. It's just the Blue Cruise warnings. It just can't sense your eyes very well with where the sensor is at. And so it beeps at you a whole bunch. And that lack of those lower leg adjustments makes it kind of hard to sit in that seat for a long time. And overall, the Expedition gets a B-. It does some really cool things, some really truck-like things, but there are some major downsides to it.
The Ford Expedition is a vehicle for a very specific buyer, someone who needs the capabilities of a truck and the space of a giant 3-row SUV. For those buyers, it's perfect.
The Ford Expedition truly is a truck for people who have too many friends or family members to sacrifice seats for a pickup bed. It has all of the upsides and downsides of a truck, and if 7 passengers in a truck-like vehicle is what you need, this is probably a pretty decent option for you.